Hello and welcome to EnglishVibesHub, the channel where we dive into all things English and help you improve your language skills. I'm Emma, and I'm excited to be here today with Liam to talk about navigating English in professional settings. Today's topic is really important for anyone looking to succeed in their careers, whether you're just starting out or looking to move up the corporate ladder.
That's right, Emma. Mastering English in the workplace can make all the difference. From job interviews to networking events and everyday communication with colleagues, being able to express yourself clearly and confidently is key. I'm looking forward to exploring this topic with you and sharing some useful tips and phrases with our listeners.
So, let's start with job interviews. This is often the first point of contact with a potential employer, and making a good impression is crucial. One phrasal verb that comes to mind in this context is to follow up. This means to contact someone again after an initial meeting or application to express your continued interest in the position or to inquire about the status of your application.
Exactly. Following up shows that you're proactive and serious about the opportunity. It can also help keep you top of mind for the interviewer. Another useful phrase is to touch base, which means to contact someone briefly to discuss something or to check in. This can be particularly useful in a professional setting to maintain relationships or to check on the progress of a project.
That's a great point, Liam. Touching base can help you stay connected with colleagues, clients, or mentors, and it's a very natural way to keep the lines of communication open. Now, let's talk about networking. This is an area where many people struggle, but it's so important for career advancement. An idiom that might be helpful here is to break the ice. This means to do or say something to relax and make people feel more comfortable in a social situation, especially at the beginning of a meeting or event.
Breaking the ice can really set the tone for a positive and productive interaction. It could be as simple as asking how someone's weekend was or commenting on something you both have in common. Another phrasal verb that's quite useful in networking is to reach out. This means to contact someone, usually to ask for help, advice, or to establish a connection. It's a very proactive approach to building your professional network.
Reaching out can lead to some fantastic opportunities, from mentorship to potential job openings that aren't advertised publicly. It's also a way to build relationships that can support you throughout your career. Now, let's consider workplace communication. Being able to articulate your thoughts and ideas clearly is essential. An idiom that might help in this context is to get to the point. This means to state the most important thing you want to say without wasting time on less important details.
Getting to the point is crucial in meetings or when discussing projects with your team. It helps to keep everyone focused and ensures that you cover the key aspects of the topic. Another phrase that's useful in this setting is to be on the same page. This means to have a shared understanding or agreement about something. It's essential for effective teamwork and collaboration.
Being on the same page can really streamline your work process and reduce misunderstandings. It's about making sure everyone has a clear understanding of their roles, responsibilities, and the goals you're working towards. Let's give our listeners an example of how these phrases might be used in a real workplace scenario.
Sure. For instance, if you're leading a project, you might say, "Let's touch base tomorrow to discuss the progress we've made so far." Or if you're in a meeting and someone is taking too long to get to the point, you could politely interrupt and say, "Sorry to interrupt, but could you get to the point so we can discuss the key issues?" These phrases can really help facilitate smooth and effective communication.
Those are great examples, Liam. Using these phrases correctly can make a significant difference in how your message is received. It's not just about the words you use, but also about the context and the relationships you're building. Let's explore more scenarios where our listeners might find themselves needing to use these phrases, perhaps in a job interview or a networking event.
Absolutely. In a job interview, you might be asked about a time when you had to reach out to someone for help or advice. Being able to describe that situation using the right vocabulary can show the interviewer that you're proactive and capable of building professional relationships. Similarly, in a networking event, being able to break the ice and start conversations with strangers can open doors to new opportunities.
It's also important to remember that mastering these phrases and idioms takes practice. Our listeners should try to incorporate them into their daily conversations, whether it's with colleagues, friends, or even in written communications like emails or reports. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel, and the better equipped you'll be to navigate English in professional settings.
That's a great point, Emma. Practice is key. And it's not just about using the phrases correctly, but also about understanding the nuances of the language and the cultural context in which they're used. This can make all the difference in how your message is perceived and can help you build stronger, more meaningful relationships in your professional life.
I think we've covered some really valuable ground so far, but there's still so much to discuss. Let's keep exploring these topics and see where our conversation takes us. Maybe we can delve deeper into specific workplace scenarios or look at more advanced language techniques for those who are already comfortable with the basics.
Sounds like a plan, Emma. I'm excited to continue this conversation and share more insights and tips with our listeners. Let's keep the discussion going and see what other useful phrases and strategies we can uncover for navigating English in professional settings.
Before we move on, let's summarize some of the key points we've discussed so far. We've talked about the importance of mastering English in the workplace, and we've introduced several phrasal verbs and idioms that can be particularly useful in job interviews, networking, and everyday workplace communication.
That's right, and we've provided examples of how these phrases can be used in real-life scenarios. Now, let's think about how our listeners can apply these skills in their own careers. What are some challenges they might face, and how can they overcome them?
Those are great questions, Liam. I think one of the biggest challenges is feeling comfortable using English in a professional setting, especially for non-native speakers. But with practice and exposure, it becomes much easier. Let's talk about some strategies for improving your professional English skills, such as watching English movies, listening to podcasts like this one, or even finding a language exchange partner.
All of those are excellent suggestions, Emma. And don't forget about the importance of feedback. Whether it's from a colleague, a mentor, or a language teacher, getting feedback on your English skills can provide valuable insights and help you identify areas for improvement.
Feedback is so important for growth and development. It's not just about correcting mistakes, but also about learning how to communicate more effectively and build stronger relationships with your peers and superiors. Let's consider a scenario where you might need to ask for feedback on your English skills, perhaps after a presentation or a meeting.
That's a great idea, Emma. Asking for feedback shows that you're proactive and committed to improving. It could be as simple as saying, "I'm trying to improve my English skills. Could you give me some feedback on my presentation?" Or is there anything I could do to communicate more effectively in our team meetings?
Those are perfect examples, Liam. And it's not just about asking for feedback, but also about being open to receiving it and using it as an opportunity to learn and grow. This mindset can really help you stand out in a professional setting and demonstrate your commitment to excellence.
I completely agree, Emma. Now, let's think about some common pitfalls or mistakes that people might make when trying to navigate English in professional settings. What are some things our listeners should be aware of, and how can they avoid them?
That's a great question, Liam. One common pitfall is using overly formal or stiff language, which can come across as insincere or even intimidating. Instead, it's about finding a balance between being professional and being approachable and friendly.
That's a really good point, Emma. Being approachable can make a huge difference in how well you connect with your colleagues and clients. Let's explore more strategies for achieving this balance and creating a positive professional image.
I think we're just getting started on a really interesting discussion, Liam. Let's keep going and see where this conversation takes us. There are so many more aspects of navigating English in professional settings that we can delve into.
Absolutely, Emma. I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation and sharing more insights and advice with our listeners. Let's keep exploring and learning together.
I'd love to dive deeper into the topic of workplace communication, Liam. You mentioned earlier that it's crucial to be aware of the company culture. Can you give us an example of how you handled a situation where you had to adapt to a new company culture?
Absolutely, Emma. I recall when I first started working at a marketing firm, I had to get up to speed with the company's lingo and way of doing things. It was a bit of a challenge, but I managed to pick up the pace by asking questions and being open to feedback. Speaking of which, have you ever heard of the phrase "to be on the same page"? It means to have a shared understanding or agreement with someone.
That's a great example, Liam. And yes, I'm familiar with the phrase to be on the same page. It's really important in a professional setting to ensure everyone is working towards the same goal. I'd like to share a personal story about a time when I had to navigate a difficult conversation with a colleague. We had to iron out some issues and come to a mutual understanding. It was a great learning experience, and I realized the importance of being able to touch base with someone, which means to briefly discuss or check in with them.
I completely agree, Emma. Being able to touch base with colleagues can help prevent misunderstandings and keep everyone informed. Now, let's talk about networking. What are some tips you would give to our listeners who are looking to expand their professional network?
Well, Liam, I think it's essential to follow up with people you meet at networking events. Send them a brief email or message to thank them for their time and reiterate your interest in connecting. It's also important to keep in touch with your existing network, whether it's through regular emails or meetings. And of course, being able to think on your feet is crucial in networking situations, as you never know what questions or topics might come up.
That's great advice, Emma. I'd like to add that it's also important to put yourself out there and be proactive in seeking out networking opportunities. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and attend events or join groups that align with your interests. And as you mentioned earlier, being able to think on your feet is vital in these situations.
I love that phrase, Liam. Putting yourself out there can be intimidating, but it's often necessary for growth and success. Now, let's do a quick role play to demonstrate how to navigate a networking conversation. I'll start by introducing myself and asking you about your work.
Sounds like a plan, Emma. Go ahead and start us off.
Hi, Liam. I'm Emma. It's great to meet you. What do you do?
Nice to meet you too, Emma. I work in marketing, specializing in social media management. How about you?
That's really interesting. I've been looking to learn more about social media marketing. Can you tell me a bit more about your experience in that area?
Of course, Emma. I've been working in social media for about 5 years now, and I've had the opportunity to work with a variety of clients across different industries. It's been a great learning experience, and I've enjoyed seeing the impact that social media can have on a business.
That's fantastic. I'd love to hear more about your approach to social media marketing. Do you have any tips for someone who's just starting out?
Well, Emma, I think it's essential to stay ahead of the curve and keep up to date with the latest trends and best practices in social media. It's also important to know your audience and tailor your content accordingly. And as I mentioned earlier, being able to think on your feet is crucial in social media, as things can change quickly and you need to be able to adapt.
Those are great tips, Liam. I think our listeners will really appreciate your insights. Let's take a closer look at the phrase to stay ahead of the curve. It means to be proactive and anticipate changes or trends in your industry, rather than simply reacting to them.
Exactly, Emma. And it's not just limited to social media. Being able to stay ahead of the curve can be beneficial in many areas of professional life. Now, I'd like to ask you about your experience with job interviews. What are some common mistakes that you think people make during the interview process?
That's a great question, Liam. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is not doing their research on the company. It's essential to do your homework and learn as much as you can about the company's values, mission, and culture before the interview.
I completely agree, Emma. Not doing your research can make you appear unprepared and uninterested in the company. And as you mentioned, doing your homework is a great way to demonstrate your enthusiasm and commitment to the role.
Absolutely, Liam. And I think it's also important to be yourself during the interview. Don't try to be someone you're not or pretend to have skills or experiences that you don't actually have. The interviewer wants to get to know the real you and see if you'd be a good fit for the company.
That's great advice, Emma. I think we've covered some really valuable topics so far. Let's keep exploring and see where the conversation takes us.
I'm excited to see where our conversation goes from here, Liam. Maybe we can discuss some common interview questions and how to approach them in a way that showcases your skills and experience.
That sounds like a great idea, Emma. I'm looking forward to sharing some tips and strategies with our listeners.
And I think it would be helpful to explain the phrase to showcase in this context. It means to highlight or demonstrate your skills, experience, or achievements in a way that makes them stand out.
Exactly, Emma. And I think that's a great way to wrap up our discussion on job interviews. But before we move on, I just want to make sure we're on the right track and covering the topics that are most relevant to our listeners.
I think we're doing a great job so far, Liam. But let's take a moment to take stock of where we are and see if there are any other areas we should explore.
That's a great idea, Emma. Let's take a closer look at the topic of workplace communication and see if there are any other areas we should delve into. That's a great idea, Emma. Let's take a closer look at the topic of workplace communication and see if there are any other areas we should delve into. For instance, have you ever had to touch base with a colleague or manager to discuss a project?
Actually, Liam, I use that phrase all the time. To touch base means to have a brief meeting or conversation with someone to discuss something or make sure everything is okay. It's really helpful for keeping everyone on the same page.
Exactly, and it's a great way to avoid misunderstandings or miscommunications in the workplace. Another phrase that's really useful is to be on the same page. This means that everyone has the same understanding or agreement about something.
That's so true, Liam. When everyone is on the same page, it makes it much easier to work together as a team and achieve your goals. And speaking of teamwork, have you ever had to pick up the slack for someone who wasn't pulling their weight?
Yes, unfortunately, I have. To pick up the slack means to take on extra work or responsibilities because someone else is not doing their job properly. It can be frustrating, but it's often necessary to ensure the project or task is completed successfully.
Absolutely. And finally, let's talk about the phrase to think outside the box. This means to be creative and come up with new or unconventional ideas or solutions to a problem. It's a great way to approach challenges in the workplace and can often lead to innovative and effective solutions.
I love that phrase, Emma. It's so important to be open to new ideas and perspectives, especially in a professional setting. By thinking outside the box, we can avoid getting stuck in a rut and come up with fresh and exciting solutions to the challenges we face.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on, Liam. We've covered a lot of ground today, from job interviews to workplace communication, and I hope our listeners have found it helpful and informative.
Definitely, Emma. And I think our listeners will agree that mastering these phrasal verbs and idioms is key to navigating English in professional settings. It's all about being confident and clear in your communication and using the right language to get your point across.
That's right, Liam. And don't forget to practice, practice, practice. The more you use these phrases and idioms, the more natural they will become, and the more effective you will be in your professional communication.
Great advice, Emma. And finally, let's talk about the importance of feedback in the workplace. Being open to feedback and using it to improve your performance is crucial for professional growth and development.
Absolutely, Liam. Feedback is a great way to learn and improve, and it's essential to create a culture of open and honest communication in the workplace. By doing so, we can build trust and respect with our colleagues and managers and achieve our goals more effectively.
I couldn't agree more, Emma, and I think that's a great way to wrap up our conversation today. We've covered a lot of important topics, and I hope our listeners have found it helpful and informative.
Me too, Liam. And I think we've provided our listeners with some really valuable tips and insights to help them navigate English in professional settings. From job interviews to workplace communication, we've covered it all.
That's right, Emma, and I think our listeners will appreciate the time and effort we've put into creating this podcast. We're passionate about helping people improve their English skills, and we're always happy to share our knowledge and expertise with others.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today, Liam. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, as always, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed our conversation.
The pleasure is mine, Emma, and to all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to this episode of English Vibes Hub. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more great content on English language learning and professional development.
And we'll catch you all in the next episode, where we'll be exploring more topics and sharing more tips and insights to help you improve your English skills and succeed in your careers. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.